This is the new Sony 16 to 25 millimeter f2.8 G lens. It's obviously incredibly small and compact and pairs clearly with their new 24 to 50 f2.8 G lens. But is this really the right thing for you necessarily, especially in comparison to the lenses that I've been using, which are the 20 millimeter f1.8 as well as the 16 to 35 f4 G lens. Now, this video isn't sponsored. I don't get to keep this lens, but I was definitely interested, as now part of my job, I guess in some ways at least, is to be using cameras both in a photo and video capacity. And it just so happened to coincide perfectly with the fact that I literally yesterday just got back from a trip with my family to Paris. And if I ramble a little bit too much in this video, it's probably because I am jet lagged out of my mind. Now, the fact that I don't have the 16 to 35 f2.8 G Master lens probably indicates to you why a lens like this might be a little bit more interesting for someone like me. First of all, obviously it is very, very small and compact, which is the reason that my other kind of options in the ultra wide department are the 16 to 35 f4 power zoom lens here and the 20 millimeter f1.8. Both of these lenses are lenses that I have used as like a pseudo kind of like vlog lens, times where I've gone out in the field of sorts to do some testing. I find those wider lenses to be really great, and often I don't need a super fast aperture, but I will say that something like this 16 to 35, it's 100% a full video lens for me. I've used it like 2 or 3 times for photos. But the 20 millimeter f1.8 has always been a good sort of focal length for me because it has a fast aperture. It is small and lightweight, but also is wide enough that I can get some interesting perspectives photographically. And I can also have a wide enough perspective that the vast majority of the videos that you've seen for a while now have actually been filmed on this lens as well. Now, if we just remove off the lens caps here and do the unthinkable of just showing you the sensor of my A7CR, you can see that it's pretty much the same size as the 20 millimeter here. It's also very similar in size to the 16 to 35 f4 power zoom lens. So really small and compact. It's about the same height as the 16 to 35 power zoom, but is definitely a lot thinner. And also a huge thing for me, because I have a bunch of 67 millimeter filter threads, it is a 67 millimeter filter thread, where the power zoom lens here is a 72, which is a bit annoying because then I have to use step-up rings to move it up to a 82 millimeter and use those lens filters, which just makes the whole package then a little bit bigger. It fits worse in bags, things like that. And then the other thing that should be sort of obvious in that whole realm as well is that these lenses are very inexpensive in comparison to that 16 to 35 f2.8 G Master lens. I don't have the final pricing on this, but it's going to be significantly less than that lens, probably about by maybe $1,000 or so. And someone like me, that is where I am much more likely to get a lens like this than that full lens. Again, it's another reason why I was really interested in that 24 to 50 millimeter lens, and why clearly these will make a very good package for somebody, because you can buy the 16 to 25 as well as the 24 to 50 for about the same amount or so that you would get either the 24 to 70 GM version 2 or the 16 to 35 f2.8 version 2. And the fact that they're so much more small and compact, this is my personal A7CR, and obviously it just fits really well on this camera. So I want to take a quick second, as this video isn't sponsored, to just put this out there. If you have found any of the videos that I do to be helpful, doing things like checking out the affiliate links, giving this video a like, and then simply subscribing to this channel would be incredibly beneficial. Obviously costs you nothing to do any of those things. But it definitely helps me as a creator on this platform be able to make more videos and make this more of a sustainable thing. Now, as was the case with the 24 to 50, you're kind of have like a reverse zoom thing here. So when you are at its smallest point, you are at 25 millimeters. And then when you zoom out, I guess it moves to 16 millimeters. So that small extension, I might even have wished that they would have just made that internal and added that tiny little bit and just made this lens a little bit bigger. I think that would have made me feel a little bit better about the weather sealing and some other things. I mean, I'm even pulling random pieces of dust and things out of the bottom of this lens as I'm talking. I also just love when lenses don't have to externally zoom. It's one of the things I do really love about this 16 to 35 power zoom here. It's all internal, which is really, really nice. But it also has all the same things as your typical modern Sony G lenses. So you have one focus hold button or whatever you want to do with that function button. Personally, for me, I use it for the APS-C crop mode, which especially in video helps the fact that this thing is only a 25 millimeter at the long end. It definitely helps extend my range a little bit and feel a little bit better about having such a limited range. That also works really well in photo mode with a crazy high megapixel camera like the A7CR here, where you're getting 26 megapixel photos in the APS-C crop mode, and the fact that you have a faster aperture by 2.8 versus f4. You have a full stop extra. You also have a clicked or declicked aperture, an AF MF on switch. You have a focusing ring here on the front, and then obviously your zoom here. And it just feels like a really well normally made Sony lens here. It doesn't feel like this bulky tank of a lens by any means, but it also doesn't feel too plasticky and lightweight. It just feels like a good lens. And the reason that I brought this along for this trip is because I wanted to pack things as small as possible. I wanted to carry around some sort of video tool a bunch. We brought our kids, so having their little voices and things like that be able to be documented as well as the photos is something that's becoming more and more important to me. And so the A7CR with its both photo and video capabilities was clearly a great tool for that. And the fact that it balances very well, obviously it's not going to pass like a balance test here with a little base plate, but when you're looking at this, you're not thinking like, oh my gosh, that lens is way too big for that camera body. But it is somewhere where I would not be wanting to put like a much bigger lens on this camera in this configuration. And obviously it's going to work well on, something like an FX3 or an A7 series body as well. But the fact that it's so small does mean that it pairs well with smaller cameras like this. Speaking of compact setups, this is the whole setup I was running. So we have the A7CR, we have the 16 to 25 f2.8 G lens, and then the ECM B10 microphone that just goes straight into the hot shoe. Anytime I wanted decent audio, I just plop that on for a little bit. And if I wanted to use some B-roll or whatever, it didn't have to have that if I didn't want to. Made it easy to slide in and out of the bag. And I just kept it in a small pocket in case I wanted something on there. Boom, put it on there. Don't have to worry about batteries or cables or anything. So I'll definitely put a link to this down below as well, because of all of the amazing little microphones that Sony makes, this probably is my favorite, and it's a good kind of like mid-range in terms of price, performance, all that kind of stuff. Even as a photographer, I didn't like stop down this lens and put it on a tripod and do a bunch of landscape photos with it. But I will say that everything that I got out of it was plenty sharp. All of the in-camera corrections so far have been really good. I can't mess with any of that kind of stuff because this lens is yet to be released to the public. So the profiles are just built in and I don't get to select or mess with them in Lightroom or anything like that. I'm sure, as was the case for the 24 to 50, there's probably weird distortion things going on, but I will say that they do such a good job, again, of mitigating that and getting rid of that in all of their software that I have found no issues with that at all. And I think for me, at least, having a small and compact lens like this, if I did want to go and have some sort of a wide angle vlog style lens that gets you to f2.8, this obviously makes a ton of sense. It doesn't give you the full range to 35, but I didn't find that to be that much of an issue. And you can see in the example footage that I showed as well, even at the APS-C crop mode at 25 millimeters, you're still getting a decent amount of reach. And I never felt like I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I would have had something else, because I just treated this like a small and compact little vlog setup that was also full frame, 4K, f2.8, all of those amazing little things. And I'm not saying that this little camera setup is cheap by any means, but it's not the most expensive microphone. It's not the most expensive camera in terms of video features. It's obviously not the most expensive lens. So you are getting a very admirable package out of all these things for less than what you would be getting otherwise. Honestly, it's been a great little lens. Sony's been doing a fantastic job of putting out really innovative little lenses like this, doing a great job of using software and things to keep the weight down, the size down, but I never ran into any issues with chromatic aberration, with sharpness. And again, they take care of all the distortion and things like that in the camera. So while this might not be like the best lens in the world, for what it is and its size and price perspective here, I think it's a great little lens that I'm definitely considering picking up. So let me know if you have any questions in the comments down below. You can check out my video on the 24 to 50 up here. Check out some videos that I've done on the A7CR up here, and I'll see you in one of those videos.